If God is good, why does he let bad things happen? The problem of evil is one of the most common and ancient objections to God's existence. It has been described as the biggest problem in theism, and when it comes to the problem of evil, Christianity doesn't hold up. Here's the problem as described by the ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus. Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he's not omnipotent. Is he able but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then whence cometh evil? Is he neither able nor willing? Then why call him God? For the sake of discussion, we'll just use the atheist's definition of evil as essentially pain and suffering. Where do we agree? The first part of the argument is true. If God isn't able to do something, by definition, he's not omnipotent. Same for the last part. If he's limited in ability or goodness, he's not worth calling God. But parts 2 and 3 are where the failure in logic happens. A good person would want to limit needless pain and suffering as much as possible. You'd have to be exceptionally cruel, or as Epicurus says, malevolent, to permit or cause needless pain. On the other hand, if God has a good reason for permitting pain, then the objection is answered. So is all pain bad, or is pain sometimes good? If you think about this just for a brief moment, the answer is an obvious yes. Pain is sometimes very helpful. Hunger pains help you seek food and not die. The emotional pain of loneliness can motivate you to make new friends, or treat your current ones well. Guilt can drive us to forego stealing and cheating. Well, what about other kinds of pain? Pain that doesn't benefit us personally. Are there ever morally justifiable reasons to allow someone else to undergo pain and suffering? For law enforcement to hold violent criminals in prison, inflicting pain and suffering by detaining them against their will, this is not evil. It's a deterrent for others to not do what they did, and it's to protect those who are innocent, and most importantly, it's justice. It would be evil and unjust to let them go free and cause more harm. Even for lesser crimes, cheating on a test, for instance, a consequence of failing the test, or shoplifting, a consequence of paying a fine. Again, these inflict some amount of pain, but they're not evil because the goal is reform. The consequence can be instructive and help prevent that from happening again in the future. But what if, on the other hand, people are innocent? Is it ever morally justifiable to allow the innocent to suffer? Sometimes yes. If a parent allows a doctor to give their child a shot that, while painful in the short term, would prevent greater future pain, not only for them, but for others who could be potentially spared the disease as well, that isn't malevolent. So if it brings about a greater good, then pain could be morally permissible. We can't automatically write off someone who allows pain or suffering as malevolent. It's possible the reason is altogether benevolent and we're simply unaware of the intent or the ultimate result. Allowing pain is not bad if there's good reasons for it. Maybe pain can be helpful sometimes or instructive or just, but does it have to hurt so much? Popular atheist Hank Green argues,
why wouldn't he just give us the very minimum dosage of necessary evil?
For the answer here, we turn to Dr. Paul Brand. His life's work was in the study of pain. He and his colleagues spent many years and millions of dollars studying it, and in particular, people who could not feel pain. So they attempted to create an artificial pain sensor that warned people with pain insensitivity. They used sensors with lights and buzzers to warn people to stop doing something before they injured themselves. First, his team tried sending an audible signal through a hearing aid, a signal that would hum when tissues were receiving normal pressures and buzz loudly when they were actually in danger. But the signal proved too easy to ignore. If a patient with a damaged hand was turning a screwdriver too hard and the loud warning signal went off, he would simply override it and turn the screwdriver anyway. This happened not once, but many times. People who didn't feel pain could not be persuaded to trust the artificial sensors. Dr. Brand's team next tried blinking lights, but soon eliminated them for the same reason. Finally, they had to resort to electric shock, taping electrodes to a still sensitive portion of the body, such as the armpit. People had to be forced to respond. Being alerted to the danger was not enough. The stimulus had to be unpleasant, just as pain is unpleasant. We also found out that the signal had to be out of the patient's reach, Brand says. For even intelligent people, if they wished to do something which they were afraid would activate the shock, would switch off the signal, do what they had in mind to do, and then switch it on again when there was no danger of receiving an unpleasant signal. Dr. Brand's research revealed 3 things. If pain doesn't hurt, really hurt, we can happily ignore it. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do, get our attention and prevent harm. So Dr. Brand dropped the lights and buzzers and instead had to resort to electrical shocks so that it really grabbed the user's attention, which revealed his second finding. When pain was induced, it did work to stop the harmful action. However, his patients would simply turn off the machine to avoid the pain, then do the thing that harmed them and turn it back on again. For pain to be effective in its role of keeping us safe, the switch has to be out of the user's reach. And number 3, the one legitimate complaint you can make against pain is that it cannot be switched off. It can rage out of control, as with a terminal cancer patient, even though its warning has been heard and there is no more that can be done to treat the cause of pain. But as a physician, I'm sure that less than 1% of pain is in this category that we might call out of control. Maybe Dr. Brand was biased and his percentages were wrong, but at minimum, the objection, why didn't God make pain minimally painful? The perhaps shocking answer from the Christian perspective is, for the vast majority of pain, he did. Okay, maybe pain has to hurt and be outside of our control, but what about that 1% of out of control, pointless pain? Or what about natural evil? Yes, that is a separate category in need of its own explanation. A famine or a hurricane isn't justice. They're seemingly random and indiscriminate. What redeeming value could they possibly have? Who could benefit from those things, and why would a good God allow those things to happen? To help understand these questions, let's look at 2 parallel examples. Number 1, the city planner who purposefully designs a bench with hard materials, awkward armrests, and a short back. It's better than nothing, but not by much. He easily could have made it more comfortable and perhaps for less cost. But why didn't he? Maybe he's malevolent, or perhaps we simply misunderstood his point. He doesn't want people staying in a public place for too long. If the bench that he designed were too comfortable, people would attempt to stay longer than he intended. His goal is for it to be a temporary place to stop as you head to your ultimate destination, and not the destination itself. Number 2, the office manager who schedules what are called stand-up meetings, intentionally making the meeting uncomfortable. No chairs, no donuts, no water. He easily could have made it more comfortable. Why didn't he? Again, we could assume malevolence, or maybe it's because the meeting isn't where he wants people to be. He's using their discomfort to focus their minds on the task at hand. Don't drone on and get off topic. There's too much important work to do to get comfortable here. This instills a sense of urgency. To focus on making the meeting more comfortable is to miss the point of not only the meeting, but the entire company. The meeting is just a temporary place to help the employees achieve their ultimate goal. Likewise with God. Perhaps we misunderstand his point as we ascribe motives and assume his goals. God doesn't intend for this life to be a permanent place of joy and peace and comfort that we would want to stay forever, any more than we'd want to live on a park bench forever. Even supposedly pointless pain has a point, and these natural evils have a greater purpose, at least in part, to remind us that we shouldn't focus too much on staying in the here and the now. If this isn't our ultimate destination, then pain is a helpful reminder for us to long for home. It can help to keep us focused on where we are headed rather than where we are. Yes, this world is flawed and broken from the perspective of wanting to stay here forever. But if the Christian perspective is true, the world is sufficient for the purpose God intended, to make us desire for something better and work toward that. Not only that, but the Bible argues that difficulties and pain in life are helpful in that they can make us better people. Among other things, it can test and strengthen our faith. It can produce within us patience and care for others. It can provide an opportunity for us to comfort one another and develop virtues we otherwise couldn't. It can be instructive, and ultimately God promises that He can turn even these terrible things into something good. When dealing with these kinds of large, emotionally heavy issues in such brevity, there is a real danger of coming across the wrong way, as if we're trying to minimize the serious pain and hurt in the world. These explanations are meant to only be introductory principles and not exhaustive explanations of why every bad or terrible thing happens. The problem of evil and pain is one that everyone has to grapple with in their own lives. But at the very least, rather than disproving God's existence, we believe that it points right to Him, as a loving Creator that wants what is best for us. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at the Gospel Broadcasting Network. We'd love to hear from you.